Thank you, Richard. I want to start by saying thank you for inviting me, setting this up, and just everybody here for your time and allowing me to come and speak. As Richard said, I was a general contractor and I have transitioned into this. This is my passion and this is my why, and I'll get into that in a little bit. This has been a life-changing journey for me to actually start this and bring this to people. I want to kind of start with some of the basics of what coaching is. If you look at the original definition of coach, it is a transport or a vehicle that takes people and things from one place to another. It has evolved in our society into people transforming and setting goals and achieving them, going from A to B. It follows all of those same premises, but it works with horses as the unique element. So going along that, when we want to achieve goals in life, we say, hey, I want to do this. Most of us know in any kind of sports arena or any activity like that what a coach is, right? You don't know what you're doing, that's a block, that's a limitation. So you hire a coach and they help you achieve that goal with their knowledge and understanding of what you want to get and where you want to be. When we get into more coaching in a personal manner, it kind of gets muddled a little bit and people kind of lose sight of the fact that it's the same premise. But because it's personal in nature, it kind of changes things up, right? Whenever we throw emotions and personal into stuff, it really kind of flubs everything up. So I want to talk about some of the things that are our limitations first. False beliefs, conditioned masks, and learned behaviors. So these types of things are our limitations to achieving what we want to achieve in our goals in life. All right? So once we learn to dance with those things and understand them, we can actually see the impact that they have on us. Every single one of these is based on our experience and everything that we've learned in life, and it kind of creates this background story. We've always been referred to it as our subconscious, but it is something that runs in the back of our minds, and it actually drives a lot of what we do. So understanding that is one of the big keys to this, and personal coaching, and that's personal and professional. It actually encompasses both. So the big thing that I always get asked is, yeah, it's coaching, this, that, and the other. We all know those models and therapeutic models and talk therapy and all those things. And a lot of those standard models actually hold a good space in our society. This one for me is a much deeper way of actually understanding that, and that's because of the horse. So that's always the big piece. Why a horse? Why in the world would I get in front of a horse to understand myself? And it is the true nature of a horse. What you guys will see are my horses. These are my coaches. These are the amazing beings that I work with on a daily basis to help people transform their lives. So get back to that. Why a horse? Most of us live in a non-present state of mind. I would imagine that most people in here right now as I'm talking are still thinking about that email they didn't send this morning. What's going on this Saturday? What's going on next week? Did I finish something from last week? A horse lives in an absolute present state of mind. They actually don't hold the piece of their brain to think about the future or the past. In that vein, they process emotions very, very efficiently. Okay? So when they feel pain, they understand the message and they work right through it. So to become more integrated as people and understand that story and all of those things that are going on in our subconscious that drive us and kind of mold us and propel us into different things, you have to be in a present state of mind. So that's the how, and that's kind of the why with a horse. When people come to work with me, they actually, I get them into that exercise of getting in that present state of mind. Okay? And once they do that, they start accessing things that are going on in their bodies and their emotions. How many people here have heard of emotional intelligence, emotional agility, those types of things, right? This is a new thing that's kind of coming up in the ranks again. It's been around for a long time, but it's being shown as the big piece that helps us become better at what we are. It's becoming more congruent, and it's becoming more authentic with who we are as a person. And that is emotions. And that's a tough one for most people to understand, because we've always been taught to keep emotions out of it, right? When we're kids and we cry, we're saying, don't do that. Or don't be jealous of this person. Don't be angry at this person. It's not good to do that, right? So we're always told to keep the emotions out of it. We've always heard right brain, left brain, right? Most people understand that kind of analogy. Left brain being your logical part, and the right brain being your creative side. And that's where most of the emotional type persona that we have lives. It's the piece we have kind of forgotten, or we don't know how to access anymore. And that's kind of the piece I work with, is integrating that into the logical brain so that they can become more connected and congruent and work together. Before I forget too, as I go along this, I kind of stream all this out. So I'm kind of a question and answer person. If I'm talking too fast or through things, please raise your hand and ask questions. I know we do that at the end, but I like to do that as we go along too. So anyway, so kind of back to the how and the why of horses. So people that are going through challenges, they're hitting blocks. They're hitting these limits, these false behaviors, these false self-voices, these false behaviors, these learned behaviors. Everything that tells you you can't do something, or you're not good enough, or you won't be able to do that. And we're not looking to change any of that. Like I said a little bit a second ago, it's about dancing with it. I call it dancing. It is learning to understand what those things are and recognizing them so that you can actually kind of push past them. It's almost like having a conversation with them. Now, it's not like talking to yourself or voices in your head, but it's more just understanding what is limiting us. And those are those false self-voices. So how does this kind of relate to personal and professional? So when we hit blocks in life, we actually start with our perspective and our story. Anything we do in personal relationships, whether it be a marriage or relationships with family, relationships at work and that kind of stuff, we're reacting based on our story. So 9 times out of 10, we always say, well, that person angered me. Well, what is it within you that actually angered, that person kind of triggered? Right? You hear that phrase a lot, you get triggered. So you have to understand what that is. And that's how this kind of works, is coaching people to understand within themselves what their triggers are, what their story is, and why they're reacting from their perspective to what's going on. And that's the shift. If I can get somebody to understand those things and get within themselves and learn from within, recognizing they're a whole and resourceful person, they have all the answers for everything they know and need and want in life, that's where we can actually have experiential learning and people will shift the way they think. And that's the element that the horse brings. So, kind of backing up a little bit, if you ever watch herd dynamics or you see a horse, you'll see horses move each other, like one will bite one on the butt or kick another one, that kind of thing. If we did that in a group setting, you would get angry, you would think about it, you would hold on to it, right? Yeah. And you would actually hold it in, and you would think and think and think and think and think and attach all these emotions to it. When one horse moves another horse, that horse that just got moved goes, yep, they want to be more than I do, and I'm going to be over here, and I really don't care. They've absolutely processed everything they felt, and it's instantaneous. We as people hold on to that, and we hold on to it, it builds and builds and builds. So you learn a lot from what these amazing creatures do to each other and how they interact with themselves. I have a feeling that this is not advancing the way it should. Anyway, okay, so in that vein again, what can we learn in our professional life from this? So we talked about personal, blocks, things we hold on to, things that limit us. How does this work in our professional lives? Well, it's really all about leadership. Herd dynamics are very different than pack dynamics. When you have a pack of wolves or a pack of lions, it's alpha rule and it's my rules and everybody will do as I say. In a herd, it's about a bunch of individuals that know that they can thrive versus survive in a group environment. They retain all of their individuality and they know that they can be better as a whole. And that's a lot of what happens in our professional lives. We all have people we work with, team members, clients, remote people, all this. It's a herd. If we try to force people to do things, it's resistance. If we open it up to leadership, which is showing somebody something that they would like to achieve and leading them to it, they're more likely to get there in a more positive way. And they're going to do it on their own volition. That's what a horse herd does. When they move, they all do it together, and they have a very sense of direction and what they need to accomplish, understanding that it's for the betterment of the group. I'm trying to think what else. I kind of started this journey, go into that a little bit, from a huge change in my life. I went through a divorce, and I decided that there was a better way of thinking. And I started this work as a basis for that, to learn how to be a better person. And that's what really brought me to this work, as far as helping get coached myself and then learning how to do it. It is an incredible way for people to actually change their lives when we want to change. Yes?
How did you get to the point where you thought horses would help you in this area?
That's interesting. So having owned 3 successful businesses and 2 failed ones, I thought I would be a good business coach. And so I started looking at coaching small businesses to help them start out. And I quickly realized that personal and professional lives are intrinsically linked, and that you have to kind of do both. And I was sitting in a horse paddock watching my daughter ride, and I landed on the page of a lady I went and trained for. Couldn't quite tell you how I ended up there, but that's where I ended. And I read a whole bunch of books on it. There's a lot of this out there, some people that are doing some amazing work, and I was just completely drawn to it. So I went and started. And when you learn how to coach, you have to go through the process yourself. And it was amazing what I learned about myself, the false self voices, everything from my childhood, everything I've learned, everything that's being reinforced that I can now question and dance with and just kind of play with and go, well, why am I reacting to this? And somebody cuts me off on the road, or I meet somebody I don't get along with. So a lot of this stuff's based on tuition type thing. How many people here have ever had a gut reaction and gone against it? You ever done that? Did it turn out well? Never does, right? So that's one of those things when I talk about body message and what your body is telling you, what you can learn from it, that intuition, it's listening to it. That's that emotional side of ourselves. We all have it. Every single one of us has access to our intuition and what I call our innate knowing. We know what we want. We know whether the situation is good. We know whether it's going to be good or whether it's going to be bad. We just have to learn to listen to it.
You talked a little bit about what we can learn from observing the dynamics of a herd of horses, but could you talk about what a person can learn interacting individually with a horse, what a horse can sense and tell them about themselves?
Sure. So horses are incredibly reflective beings. It's how they actually communicate in a herd. They don't have a spoken language like we do. So to communicate, they actually feel and sense each other. You can watch a herd of animals or a herd of horses see a mountain lion that will walk right through their herd. They know that that mountain lion is not hungry, so they don't react to it. So when we get in front of the horse, they will actually bring up and reflect what's going on within us, of things we may not know is there, things we may not recognize as being there, and can give us that information. In a sense, it's almost like biofeedback. Right? People will go in and have their brains wired up, and then all the little electrodes and everything show peaks and valleys and this, that, and the other. It's a biofeedback. This is a type of biofeedback, but it's emotional. It's from within ourselves. It goes to the whole point of we are whole and resourceful, and we know everything that we want and need as a people and as individuals. We just have to remember how to access it. And the horses help us do that because they're starting to connect with us. And when we connect with them, they do the same thing they do for the rest of the herd. They share that energetic information, and it can give us all the information we need. Does that make sense?
I mean, what's an example of something a horse, when you say reflect, are you saying that if you're maybe tense and anxious and don't fully realize it, that the horse will start acting tense and anxious?
It can. If anything, it will kind of amplify it in you, and unless you know how to read what's going on, you'll actually just kind of get triggered, or you'll kind of stay in that state. Until you learn to understand what's going on, that you're tense and anxious, you don't really actually kind of diffuse the bomb per se. Horses will generally mirror our actions. So if you are tense and anxious, they can show being tense and anxious. Sometimes they'll actually support you in that. A horse shows up differently for every single person, every single client, every single group or people that come out. They basically react to the situation and what's going on within the group of the people. Yes?
Horses will retain the backstory, if you will, if they were getting into a trailer and had some sort of a misstep, or they were talked to in the wrong way or whipped in the wrong way. They carry that backstory with them. It's difficult to retrain them and get rid of that backstory. Are humans easier or harder to get rid of that backstory?
That's going to depend on the person. So this kind of work is a very conscious work. I've had people come out and have one experience with the horses, and it brings up so much they don't want to come back. So it's no different than getting a gym membership. You got to want to go. You got to show up. You have to be intentional about it. It's about setting intention. So some people are more resistant to it, but it's more personal choice than actual any kind of a physical or psychological thing. Just real quick, with a horse changing their behavior, a lot of times they're repeating that behavior over and over again as they're not supported in that. right? So if somebody keeps trying the same thing, I'm going to put this horse in the trailer, I'm going to smack him on the butt. That's what most people think. Well, if you try and figure out from that horse's perspective what they need to get into that trailer and not be anxious about it, it actually solves the problem. So it goes back to the whole thing of learning what is somebody else's perspective, your perspective, and understanding it from that way. What are you going through? What is that person going through? And then it brings that kind of level of awareness.
If humans were only that easy.
Absolutely. That's why we have multiple sessions.
So we had a program in Connecticut, in the town I lived in, and it was involving horses too, and it was called Pegasus, and it was helping children who had mental or physical disabilities riding horses. And so once again, horses seem to have a very calm, influence, and very therapeutic role in their lives.
Yeah, there's a lot of work being done with this around autism, brain damage, traumatic brain injury, PTSD with veterans. CNN's highlighted a few things. There's a lot of different avenues this is worked with. We think of those and they're kind of extreme situations, but the rest of us kind of go, well, we don't really need anything. I'm not that extreme. But you can actually achieve the same thing. A lot of the children you're talking about do it instantaneously because kids think differently. They're much more present and they connect with the horse very easily. That's why you'll see a lot of that stuff. And horses are generally more calm around little kids. They're also very congruent because they don't try to mask their emotions. You don't see a lot of 10-year-olds running around going, I'm mad, I'm going to try and be happy. If they're mad, they let you know. They kind of speak their mind.
It seems that a lot of domestic pets also seem to have that same kind of living in the moment. And horses do. And they sense how we are.
Right, like if you have a dog, a lot of times if you're sick or kind of feeling bad, you can see a difference in their behavior. The thing that's unique about a horse is they actually start reflecting it back. They have such big hearts. They've actually done some scientific study around the Heart Math Institute, and they've actually measured a horse's electromagnetic field, and it's about 40 to 50 feet outside of them that can actually start sensing things. They have a personal bubble of about 150 feet away. So it's the same type thing. Just in a different animal.
I wish you could tell some stories of how people interacted and how the horses acted. I mean, like I used to ride a lot by myself when I was a teenager. And I came up to a puddle and I was not afraid of what the horse was.
Yeah.
They didn't reflect what I was thinking.
Yeah. It's kind of a reactionary thing. So horses are flight, fight, or freeze. That's the three basic emotions that they will feel around stuff like that. You're talking about as far as like clients coming out, that kind of thing. So the first one that pops to my mind is a client that came out, and this person was being told all the time that they needed to connect with themselves more emotionally, that they were emotionally bereft and this, that, and the other. And they were kind of getting tired of people telling them that. So they come out and we start working with the horse, and this person quickly realizes that they are very emotionally disconnected with themselves. But what they had never done is told themselves that that was okay. Right? So they were listening to everybody else telling them this, which created a false belief. And they had to put on a mask, a conditioned mask and conditioned behavior to try to be that, instead of just saying, I'm okay with it. So we went through a couple sessions and kind of separated everything out, and they actually learned that they were actually okay. And now those statements and their reactions to all of that stuff. How do we do that with a horse? By connecting with them. So that seems like such a simple answer, and I wish I could offer more. It's a very experiential process. Best way I can describe it is a round pen session lasts about 2 hours. That's the process we hold for people to come out. And they bring whatever it is they're looking to work with, and through a series of just coaching and learning about what's going on with them, getting them in the moment, working on some meditative, reflective type stuff, they start to get more present in themselves, and then the horse starts connecting and starts bringing up what's actually within them, things they haven't noticed or didn't know was there. Does that kind of answer the question? Not really. I will admit it's hard to explain because it's so experiential. A lot of times what we do for people that have questions about this is we bring groups out to have small sessions and interactions because it promotes a better understanding of what's going on, because you're feeling it. And it's hard to actually describe to somebody what is it like to feel and interact like that, because we don't do it on a normal basis.
I know
It's hard to say because it's so situational.
Yeah, she went like this. Yeah.
When you said the horse starts reflecting back the emotions, I'm having a hard time picturing what that would look like. How does that happen?
So, like I was saying, horses communicate with each other by reflecting their emotions back and forth. If one of the horses senses something out there and they start to feel fear, the rest of the herd will start feeling it because they just emanate that emotion out. We all have those within us. Our left brain that we're taught and conditioned to is to not pay attention to that. So when we say reflecting, it's almost like a mirror. It's almost like looking at an emotional mirror. And when you can get in your present state and start connecting with the horse, they amplify it so much. So if there's a lot of stress in your life or anxiety or fear around a certain thing, it will actually start coming up and will be more noticeable because the horse is trying to reflect that information back to you. The best way I can describe it in a scientific way is it's like biofeedback. It's giving you that information that you didn't know was there. Most of us are stressed, anxiety, fearful of certain things. We just don't know why or what.
Are many of your folks have already said perhaps taken counseling or the more traditional approach of trying to connect with themselves through a psychologist, psychiatrist, then come here, or just because they don't want to go there as a compliment? Is it, where does the other more traditional kind of therapies fit in?
It could be all of the above. So a lot of this is what resonates with people. There's art therapists out there. Some people go into the gym as their therapy, right? If they don't go for a couple of weeks, they feel off balance. They haven't connected with that piece of them. So I will say this is not for everybody. We help other coaches who have a client who's in their story and saying the same thing over and over again. They can't get past that block because the client is controlling the story. When you come here, it brings it up for you. It's almost automatic. The horse kind of shows you that, and it gives them some more information to work with. So we work in all kinds of different ways. Some with therapists, some with other coaches. It just kind of depends on what resonates with the person. We actually have a really good marriage program for people wondering what's going on with their marriage, and we work with the therapist, and it's back and forth between the two of us to get them a lot of information about what's going on and what kind of decisions they need to make.
Do the clients ride the horses?
No, it's all on the ground. So we work in a 60-foot round pen at what's called Liberty with no halter or leads or any man-made type devices on them. That's their second level of personal space is actually 60 feet. So they're in there by themselves at their comfort level, connecting with the horse.
You say the horses show them. How do they show them?
I have to go back to the intuition thing again. You know, if you're standing in front of somebody or you're in a situation and your gut tells you something, like this is a bad idea or I should do something different, how do you explain that? It's hard to explain. It's just something that comes up within you and it's information. So the horse helps you see that. It's an intuition and that's that innate knowing. It's all through energetic work. And that's where a lot of people, it kind of fades out, where it's hard to understand because we don't speak to a lot of energetic work in our society right now. I feel this, and I feel that. I should do this and I should do that because of these learned behaviors and what's told to me. So connecting with that piece of us gives us that information that we're kind of missing. Does that make a little more sense? Or is it still kind of?
No, when you say it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wonder.
Because we all like empirical data. I've had clients come out and they want the empirical data, and it's hard to do that because it is a feeling within you, and it's unique for each person.
Not a small one. How long have horses been around? Millions of years? When I started teaching that, they never done this about.
Yeah.
They had 3 toes on the front. No, I don't know, millions of years. So, humans have been involved for millions. At least 50 million years, right?
It's about 65 now.
These horses, there's got to be something that.
Well, we always made a little shrew or something, you know, a little first mammals.
Right. Well, my point is, maybe there is some connection that we aren't even aware of that we may have with these animals, whether it's horses or other animals.
Absolutely. So part of what it is we have the neocortex, which is developed different than most animals. So we have a method of thinking in a different way. We're not succumbed to the limbic system and that lizard type reaction. But we all still have that. It's just buried in different layers. So accessing that gives us the missing piece of what animals and other connection to nature, connection to each other, that kind of thing.